Dr. Mason West.
Good evening, Bears fans, or good morning if you're listening to this tomorrow on your commute. I'm not really sure. Welcome to this episode of Bear Bones. My name, as always, is Mason West, and I am here to preview the game against the Saints. Bears will take them on at Soldier Field at home. Was really concerned that I was going to have to do this solo, but the man, the myth, the legend, former friend of the podcast, former co-host of the podcast, now friend of the podcast again, came to the rescue. Kyrie Thompson. Kyrie, how you doing, man?
Doing good. You know, it's funny you were talking about whenever you're watching this, so or whenever you're listening to this podcast, because I was just came back from Paris/Switzerland. My first time being in Europe actually was just this past week, and the time difference was killing me. Like, so on Monday night, or rather Tuesday morning, where I was at, my daughter and I are at the airport, and out there, Monday Night Football starts at 2:15 a.m.
Jeez.
So I'm over here like watching the game in the ride over to the airport and watching the final drive as the boarding process is about to start. And it's 5 a.m. It was crazy.
I can't even fathom that. And then, make this applicable directly to football, like the teams that have that travel, right, and have to go and play these London games, these games in Dublin, all that stuff. Like, I just can't fathom it, to be honest. It's just so crazy. And obviously teams do what they can to try to manage it, but it's still just a whole thing.
Yeah, and you know what? I feel like people talking about why didn't Aaron Rodgers earlier this year was like, I don't know why we flew into London so late, and having done that flight now, and then imagine doing a quick turnaround. It took me like 2 days to feel normal, and then of course I turned back around, 5 days total, and I'm back in the U.S. And I swear I slept 12 hours when I came back home. I was done. I mean, that is tough. So I feel for you NFL players doing these international games.
Well, speaking of done, speaking of recovering, we're actually going to go right into our training room roundup today, have a conversation here about what is going on with the Bears and Saints injury reports. Obviously, keep in mind, the Bears one's a little weird. Yesterday, they just did a walkthrough, so it was all estimated, whatever that means half the time. It's, in theory, what they would have done if they were going to actually be, participate, doing a regular practice. But then, today, a little more on the nose, and then the biggest one being tomorrow. But let's just knock it right out in terms of the ones that did not participate, because those will be the biggest. Grady Jarrett, Cairo Santos, Noah Sewell. On the Grady Jarrett front, Brad Briggs reported he had a procedure done today. What does a procedure mean? It could be everything as little as had fluid drained from his knee all the way to he literally went in and had a cleanup, right? I mean, there could have been some intra-articular damage in there that they went in and literally snipped away. So we won't get what that specifically is, at least at this point in time. But, I mean, he's, in terms of a signing, this has been a disappointing one.
Yeah, and I think I understand why you did it. I'm trying to revamp on both sides of the ball. But to me, when he signed, I felt like this was always going to be we'll see how much you have left in the tank. Obviously, a tremendous player throughout his career. But you take a flyer on it, see how it works. And it has not worked. You're going to have a couple of those every single time you go into free agency. That's why you want to make sure that you draft really well. And again, he's 32 years old, so it is what it is.
What are you going to do? Really quickly, just pump out the Noah Sewell. I mean, if you watched the game, you saw he had a friendly fire. Just smashed right on the top of the head there. I was concerned. I was sitting there next to my wife, and my first thought was, man, I hope he's going to be able to get up and walk. I laugh at that, but it's just because, I mean, it's scary. It's scary stuff. You're worried about spinal compression of fractured vertebrae. Luckily, it was a concussion. Did not participate the last 2 days and will more than likely be out going forward. But he was getting some consistent snaps in that game. So there's a good chance that your inactive draft pick that people really did not like from the summer may actually have to be active this game if Noah Sewell is not available to be that third linebacker, which he will not be. Let's be real.
Yeah, no, he's definitely not playing. And I think again, I'm watching the game on mute when this happens. And at first I was like, oh man, did like somebody like commit a penalty? Like what happened here? Like why do they keep showing this replay over and over again? And I've had that happen to me. I've gotten friendly fired into an injury, into a concussion like that. It is absolutely not fun. We're 1,000% not seeing him this week. And it's a shame because I feel like Noah Sewell, from the bit that I've watched him this year, again, for a fourth round pick, so you're not necessarily looking at him like, oh my God, like he's God's gift to linebackers. But I've liked what he's done. In his relief action, for TJ Edwards, and I thought that he's been kind of flying around, doing what he does. Like, again, the athleticism is not necessarily elite, but when he gets to the ball, he's making plays. So I feel like there's, for what he is, I think there's a lot to like about what he's done so far. It's a shame that he's going to have to sit out.
And then the last of those DMPs, Cairo Santos, looks like you're going to get another Jake Moody game. Ben Johnson did confirm that Cairo Santos is the primary kicker when he's healthy. So there's not a kicking competition or conundrum that's going to happen going forward here. But, Jake Moody obviously did well, 3 of 4, missed that one where it got blocked, game-winning kick. But we know, extra points, he was fine in his career, but when it came to the consistency, especially over 50 yards, I believe he was chilling around like 50%, if not a little less than that, for his career so far. I mean, there's a reason he got caught from San Francisco. So I do find it interesting how many people were clamoring almost to make this a competition.
Yeah, and I think so much of it is based on what Cairo Santos, can't do, ostensibly. He doesn't have a big leg. Very accurate, inside the 40, and you roll the dice and hope that maybe he can hit from 50, which I think he's got potential to surprise you there. But it's not like Jake Moody has, incredible range himself. I think his like career high wasn't really all that much deeper than Santos. Can't remember exactly what it was. I thought maybe it was 57.
59 in college, 57 in the pros.
57 in the pros, yep. So it's not like, oh yeah, he's hitting from 60 all the time like these other guys, and the accuracy isn't there. I feel like people get bored with what really consistent, but not spectacular guys can do, and you want a taste of, oh, maybe this new guy can show me something that's a little bit different. But I feel like by and large, you're happy when Cairo Santos is your kicker. Yeah, it means you're not getting 60-plus yard field goals. I get that. But it means that just about everything you're getting inside of 50 yards is going in. And that's a big deal, right? You will take that.
I feel like Bears fans forget the kicking carousel that went on not all that long ago when you had guys like Bednarski kicking the football. And also for those people who called for Eddie Piñeiro's head, also part of that kicking competition, got run out of town a little bit here. And then he's doing quite well now for the team he's kicking for. So, all that matters. And at the end of the day, if I had guessed, the kicker that's going to be here in 2027, 2028 is probably not currently on the roster. So just keep the guy that at least pretty consistent is going to make kicks for you.
Yeah, especially if this is a team that you're thinking you want to make a bit of a playoff push with. Why are you going to change out your veteran kicker who's good when he's healthy, right? As long as he's here, why would you do that, right? Don't shift variables right now. We'll revisit this after the season, and we'll go from there. Don't switch to Jake Moody, right? There's no evidence that suggests that that's a good idea.
Elephant in the room, the DJ Moore situation. Was it finished the last game? No problem. A little shaken up a couple times in the game. You could tell if you look back at the film, especially there's some plays where he just not 100%. Was in the locker room celebrating with his teammates, and then ended up having to go to the hospital. Now, he was diagnosed with a groin. I can't think of a true groin muscle injury that would have required hospitalization. So what happened to DJ Moore? It's all speculative. I mean, it could have. I'm not trying to get too much into this because it's his business and you're trying to be a whole thing. It could be a hernia or something like that, but it's basically having to do his private parts. I've heard testicular torsion. It's not that. that's an emergency situation if it truly was, where you're getting surgery just because literally blood flow could cut off to your testicles and you could lose them if you don't do that right away. If it's a true torsion, so that's surgery, and that's at least 2 to 6 weeks of recovery. He's a limited participant. Honestly, my guess is a hydrocele, and that's the fancy way of saying swollen testicles. you got hit and something happened there. So especially when you think about the situation, goes to the locker room, celebrating with teammates, you go to change, you notice, oh, there's something happening here. Hey, coach, trainer, what's going on? Oh, shoot, let's just get you checked out. So I don't want to spend too much time on that, but he was limited today, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. He may be available this week. We'll see.
I think that sounds like a perfect analogy, especially when I look back at the story about it from like Courtney Cronin. There's a bit of a personal thing going on there. So obviously a delicate situation, private matter, if I might venture to say that. Thank you. I'm so glad you have those. What I'll be interested in, and this is partly a DJ Moore tweet, but also just a general wide receiver room tweet. What happens if DJ Moore can't play? Does that mean we get to see more of Luther Burden III? Because I kind of want to see more Luther Burden III. I mean, look, at this point in time, like Rome Odunze is your wide receiver one. Like I know we're paying DJ Moore the money and all of that, but Rome Odunze is the best receiver on your team. He's your wide receiver one. So now it's all about who's your wide receiver two. When DJ Moore is engaged and healthy, he's obviously wide receiver one caliber. And works and fits in really well, as a wide receiver two or like wide receiver 1B or what have you. But I really want to see them get the ball in Luther Burden III's hands. Every time they do, something good happens. And it's just a matter of there's so many mouths to feed in this offense, and I expected this at the time when he was drafted, that he wasn't necessarily going to have a huge role in year one. But again, there comes a point where you look at the sample size and you look at the tape of every single time he touches the ball, you're impressed. So is there room for, even if he's limited and even if he does play, are we going to see some more Luther Burden III snaps here? I think it's either he's going to be taking snaps from DJ Moore or he needs to be taking snaps from Olamide Zaccheaus, whom, again, I do not hate Olamide Zaccheaus at all. Undrafted guy who's worked his way into a good career, but he is what he is. As a solid slot receiver who's got limited upside. So you drafted Luther Burden III because he has tremendous upside. So how about we see some of that now that we've got a little taste of sample size of, good things happen when you throw him the ball.
Yeah, you have to wonder. I mean, so Ben Johnson's a very intentional guy. He's going to get players the ball that he thinks deserve to have the ball or is going to help the offense. We saw that with Sam Laporta. He has a rookie bursting onto the scene, and people are questioning, well, why is Burden not getting the ball? Why is Colson Loveland not getting the ball? And I think there seems to be reasons for that. Colson Loveland, week one, Ben specifically said we were trying to use our tight ends more so to help with protection, knowing what the defensive line of the Vikings offered. They weren't really in the passing game as much. He was very intentional with that. So, and going after that, he got hurt in that Raiders game. He right away got a couple catches, targets, and it looked like it was going to be a big game for him. And so now he's coming back from the injury, right? So he's playing, but he's not 100%. When it comes to Burden, there's a part of me that has to wonder, is it a playbook thing? Because we've seen, like you said, when he gets the ball in his hands, good things are happening. So is it simply that, Oz is on top of it? He knows in general where he's supposed to be, how the play works, and versus is Burden just catching up still in terms of what that looks like in a Ben Johnson professional offense? Because otherwise there wouldn't be a reason as to why there should be a hindrance here. So I would like it to be Burden. I do wonder if it's almost more Zaccheaus, because if Moore couldn't go, because of the idea. Because at the end of the day, like you said, we know who Zaccheaus is. We've seen him in multiple offenses. He's 28 years old. There's not a high ceiling there. He's in theory a high floor guy. And then you had last week where the miscommunication between him and Caleb a couple times, the drop that happened. So I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think especially when you're on, with a young team, whether young quarterback, young pass catchers, what have you, trust is extremely important. And the entire reason you signed Zacchaeus was because he is, first of all, a veteran guy who's produced at a decent level, particularly when you're talking about his draft status. He's worked with young quarterback. He just came from Washington, with Jaden Daniels, so he knows that team well. And so I was expecting more from him in this game. I didn't throw any money on him, but I was thinking to myself, like, maybe a Zacchaeus touchdown, because revenge games are kind of like that. But I think you rely on guys like that because in theory they are able to translate their experience to the field and help a young quarterback, or a developing offense along, because they're where they're supposed to be. They do what they're supposed to do. It doesn't matter if they're special or incredible or what have you. Just catch the ball, right? Catch the ball, be where you're supposed to be. And I think, especially early in preseason, you're like, okay, look at this. Zacchaeus is kind of doing the thing. Kind of seemed like there was a decent relationship being built there. And then he has a bad game, which shouldn't necessarily mean like, okay, you've got to cut him now or something like that. But again, it just reveals the limitations that he has as a player. And at some point, because I agree with you that, familiarity with, just in the NFL generally, understanding the speed of the game, knowing where you're supposed to be matters, especially early on in a new regime or, with a young quarterback. But at some point, the talent's got to win out. And as long as Luther Burden is doing what he needs to do, and progressing with the playbook, they're able to trust him to block and trust him to line up where he's supposed to be, not make mental mistakes. At some point, when that progression is pretty consistent, then he's got to start taking guys snaps. Like, it's just as simple as that to me, because the Bears offense is, probably the most consistent that it's been in a really long time through these 5 games. They're explosive. And you're not even playing arguably the most explosive offensive player you have right now. So how about more of that, please?
A couple more to roll through here. Jonah Jackson didn't participate yesterday, but was full today. Fantastic. Keep this offensive line rolling at this point. Don't want to, mess with a good thing after that line did pretty dang well, even with the differences in tackles that you had. DeAndre Swift popped up with was limited with a groin. We'll see how that goes, but my expectation, that shouldn't be a big thing. I mean, I'd be more concerned. We'll see ultimately tomorrow. I mean, if he's DNP tomorrow, all of a sudden, just like maybe today, he only did half the practice because this groin thing popped up. But I wouldn't be surprised if this is more precautionary. And then lastly, 3 different players. Last week, Austin Booker, Travis Homer, their IR return window opened, did not play in the game, were not fully activated. And then Amen Agbenigba ruined that. I'm sorry, Amen. His window opened up, so he could potentially come back as well. I would really hope that, of those 3 names, Austin Booker can get on the field. I know it was only preseason, but he looked really good in that preseason, and just having a little more juice off the edge would be great. And then just having Travis Homer, special teams ace, and then just another potential guy in that rotation at running back, just to help out, especially if DeAndre Swift is a little hampered, would be great.
And just generally, getting healthier at a time when it seems like your team is starting to round into form is never a bad thing. I'm located out in Boston, and I got my little one coming over here to show a little bit of bubble gum on her mouth. Silly kid. But I think getting healthy at the right time, where you're building this momentum, is huge. What I was saying is I'm out here in Boston, so I've been watching the Patriots in an interestingly parallel track, right? With Drake May ascending, Caleb Williams getting better, and 2 teams that have first-year head coaches that are better so far this year than they were last year. And kind of a common thread there is not just the quarterback play and the coaching, but also the fact that they kind of struggle with injuries at certain points to like big players that they really need. Like Christian Gonzalez was out for the first couple games of the season, and the Bears lose Jalen Johnson, and he's done, right? But then everybody else being as healthy as you kind of possibly can, and sort of rounding into form, and sort of this getting into Q2, right, of the season. You're getting into October and into November when the real money gets made as far as playoff pushes go. So I think this is a good sign for where the Bears are at. I feel like, week one, as I kind of look back on that, week one was definitely a missed opportunity, but I think I've seen, in the past few weeks, obviously on a 3-game winning streak here, they're rounding into some form here. And I feel like, it's a positive direction.
And then on the Saints side, some of these don't heavily matter. Alvin Kamara, Isaac Yiadom both didn't participate. Those, as far as I understand it, were more just precautionary, especially Kamara. That was more of a veteran, hey, just hang out. We need you for a Sunday thing. Olave was full. Alante Taylor, their starting cornerback, was full. And then everything else. The only person that didn't participate recently was Devon Gotcha, defensive tackle, but that was rest. So, the Saints are going to be as healthy as they possibly can be in this game.
Yeah, and if the Bears play as well as they are capable of playing, this is a team that shouldn't matter how healthy they are. You should probably beat them. I think that they're not necessarily a team that, is going to roll over for you, but the Bears should be the better team, as all things being equal. So, and again, I mentioned this partly because I watched, a good portion of the Patriots game against the Saints, knowing that this matchup was coming up, and, they played that 4-2 Patriots team pretty tough. That said, you can have them down the field. If you're able to get guys free, Caleb Williams able to extend some plays, you can definitely attack them down the field. One touchdown that did count, and another deep touchdown that got called back for an absolutely hideous offensive pass interference penalty, almost as bad as the penalty that took Rome Odunze's touchdown off the board. Or actually, no, it was actually worse. It was worse than the one that took that touchdown off the board. But yeah, Bears should win this game. We're going to get into that later, but that's how I feel.
Quick break, and then we're going to get into it right after that.
Proper gut health is instrumental to athletic performance and recovery. Our gut is in essence a second brain, and health researchers are continually uncovering new benefits of probiotics, scientifically connecting the dots between gut health, reduced inflammation, and stronger immunity. Kombucha Aid is a tasty, clean label, functional option to easily add probiotics into any athlete's routine. We call it balancing your brains.
Kombucha Aid is a premium performance-focused kombucha crafted specifically for athletes and active individuals. This revitalizing beverage blends additional benefits of kombucha with nutritional enhancements to support energy, hydration, and recovery. Made from organic teas and infused with natural electrolytes, Kombucha Aid offers a delicious and effective solution to maintain peak performance. Better athletic performance, increased nutrient absorption, improved wellness, and improved cognitive stamina. Use code BEARGUTCHECK for 15% off your order. Go ahead and do that now. Be the best you can be. All right, knee-jerk reactions. This is one hot take going into next week. Kyrie started this already, talking about how this Saints team can be had. I'm just hoping that this isn't a trap game for the Bears. And I say that because, the Bears are, 3-game win streak, feeling good. But isn't it very Bearsy to take an opponent like this, a opponent that plays hard? If you look at all the stats, the New Orleans Saints ranked 22nd in the NFL in passing yards. They ranked 28th in passing touchdowns, 16th in rushing yards, 27th in rushing touchdowns. In terms of EPA per play, negative 0.055 on offense in 2025, which is 25th out of 32 teams. They ranked 17th in the NFL in passing yards allowed, 9th out of 32 teams in rushing yards allowed. Defense is allowing 0.010 EPA per play this year, which is 19th out of 32 teams. And overall, they are 30th in total DVOA. They're only ahead of the Bengals and one other team I forgot to write down. Overall, this team is not good. The Saints are bad. But at the same, I'm just concerned, do they all of a sudden, can't you see that happening? Like if you go in the last 5-ish years, a Saints team coming to Soldier Field, and beating the Bears who are feeling good about themselves. Now, this is not your old Bears. Ben Johnson's here. Caleb is here. All that jazz. I just have a little concern.
Yeah, and I mean, and again, not to keep on hammering this, but it's just because like I spent, I'm out here, right? So it's just naturally something that I'm thinking about. But people were saying the same thing, when I was watching the Patriots take on the Saints, because again, it was the same thing. You beat Buffalo in prime time, and you're gonna come in here, and are you gonna lay an egg? Like what are you gonna do? And in the end, they took care of business and they won that game. I bring that up because, and I wrote about this earlier this week. The Bears have kind of showed in this last game Monday night that they're a little different than they have been, because they would have 1,000% lost that game last year, or any time over the last 3 years. They would have lost that game to the Commanders hands down, because they shot themselves in the foot all game. And then when the opportunity was presented for them to win, they end up, taking advantage. And I feel like that's something that we've been kind of begging for them to do. It's like, win a game that's not perfect. And they did. Last year, they would have been the team screwing up in prime time, 1,000%. But I'm thankful that we got to at least watch them eke it out, even though it was a C- performance. Now, again, that was a very tough win, gritty win, all that stuff. This is going to be the real test, or one of the real tests for Ben Johnson. Beat the teams that you're supposed to beat.
Yep.
Right. So you again, kind of squeeze things out against the Raiders, which is a team you should have beaten arguably by more. Right. But you end up coming back, you win that game. Good for you. Right. You should have won week 1, but you didn't. This is another opportunity for you to show that you are better than this team, and you need to lock in and take care of business. There's no reason the Bears should lose this game, but the history of the Bears is what it is. And this is a first-year head coach. This is still a developing offense. So let's see what you've got. And I mean, to your point, right, you're looking at the defense. I think they're the 6th worst team in the league. The Saints are, in terms of drives in which, points are allowed. So I think they're giving up points on 43% of their drives. So you should score a lot of points here. You just should. And offensively, they have at least one threat that I am very concerned about. But by and large, their passing game is nothing to write home about. Okay, you should be able to get after Spencer Rattler. We'll talk about my worry later.
Any knee-jerk reaction specifically, besides what you've already highlighted?
My knee-jerk reaction is that so we've already had the big yardage Luther Burden game, but this is going to be the game where he gets meaningful snaps and you start to see him be a more integral part of this offense. This could be the actual quote unquote breakout game in terms of maybe snap counts and targets.
Okay, that's not a bad one. What about your, to be perfectly honest, something just brutally honest about this matchup?
I want to see them score every single drive of the first half. Every single drive.
Yeah.
And if they don't, I'm going to be mad. There we go.
That's a good one. I mean, like you said, I would be disappointed. Let's say they won this game, but they won 20-17 for the sake of argument. I'd be upset, to be honest, because you can't use this fully, but point differential does matter. And I say that do you keep games close with really good teams, if not get some wins? And do you just handle the teams you should handle? So this is where, similar to the Cowboys game, you should be able to put some points on, and you should also be able to, hold them out at the end zone and prevent field goals as well. So I totally agree with that one. Mine is, I'm a little disappointed and would have expected more from the tight ends, considering how much 12 personnel is used. I mean, the Bears entered week 6 with the 5th highest rate of 12 personnel this season on Monday Night Football. They used 11 personnel on 53 of 59 plays, which was 89.8% per next gen stats. That's the highest rate in any game ever coached or coordinated by Ben Johnson. Being a lot of 12 personnel does not guarantee success by any means. Cole Kmet has 8 receptions on 18 targets for 116 yards. That puts him at 43rd among tight ends in terms of receptions. Loveland missed time, but he has 5 receptions on 9 targets for 54 yards. I expected more. Loveland at being a rookie, being hurt, I hear you, but I think I've been probably one of the captains of the Cole Kmet train and the he's just not being used kind of thing. But when you go back and you watch the film with Cole, it just almost feels a little square peg, round hole-y with how Ben would like to use him. And I just was expecting more and I'm hoping that the Saints game, they can get that rolling.
Yeah, and I think, you can see why Cole Kmet is being phased out of this offense. You saw it immediately with, the kind of tight ends that Ben Johnson has had success with, with Sam Laporta and then drafting Colston Loveland. And I feel like that hopefully will eventually take off. Otherwise, we're all going to be wondering why you didn't go with the guy that everybody sort of assumed you were going to take with Tyler Warren, who's having a pretty good rookie season right now. Don't look at the numbers. They might make you mad. But I think with Cole Kmet, he's always kind of been what he is, right? He's never been a great, man coverage beater. He's a smart zone guy, sit down in a window, and he's going to break tackles when you get it to him in space. He's going to be tough to bring down, but he's not a matchup nightmare. He's never been that guy.
No.
So I really think they were counting on Colston Loveland being more healthy and being able to just kind of Sam Laporta, set it and forget it in the lineup and have him be producing. Though I also think that with the weapons that you have in the passing game, which is part of why you also draft Luther Burden the third, and you bring in Zacchaeus and you've got Rome Odunze making a leap in his second year, and you've got DJ Moore. So you have all these options that can carry the load for you. But again, I feel like he wants to live in that world where the tight ends are your matchup problems, and instead both of them are just regular problems for you, not for the other team.
Well, ain't this humorous? Something quirky or funny? Mine's pretty simple. It kind of connects to something I talked about earlier. I mean, the New Orleans team is spunky. They currently have a 1-5 record, but they play hard. They hung in with the Bills a few weeks ago, beat a Giants team that just beat the Eagles, and hung in with the Patriots, who recently beat the Bills. The Saints scored on all 4 of their first half drive against the Patriots, losing just by 6. And this offensive line is a sieve, but Spencer Rattler is actually playing surprisingly well considering his college career and also his draft stock. Not necessarily good either. I mean, he ranks 22nd in quarterback rating with a 91.92, 26th in EPA per play. But considering it was supposed to be Tyler Shuck, he is holding his own. I mean, he was basically discounted by a lot of people, myself included. So it's just kind of interesting how that all panned out.
Yeah, and you know what? I think, they're 1-4 right now. Again, clearly not a good team. They're not ready. They're not ready to win right now. They don't have the talent or the personnel to win some of these games. But I think, again, this is early enough in the season where they're bad, but they're still tough and they're still playing for something. They're not laying down for it, right? If maybe you caught them in week 16, this might be a little bit different. So I think, kind of from that standpoint, I am looking at this like of course there's a chance the Bears, might get caught flat-footed in this one. I'm very hopeful that it won't happen. I find it humorous that after all this time of us dogpiling on DeAndre Swift, he has a game coming out of the bye that the Bears would not have won. They would not have won this game without him. Yeah. His I believe that was his best yards from scrimmage game yet as a Chicago Bear. I have to go back and look at that because I know last year he had a game that was like 129 yards. I'm gonna go back and look at that, but 170 plus scrimmage yards in this game. The game-breaking touchdown off that reception, breaks a tackle, and busts out for, points that obviously the Bears wouldn't have won without. He is, it's like, I don't know what got him running like a new man, because he was probably quite literally the worst running back in football coming into the bye week. We will take it. I will say it. We will take that performance from him. I don't know that you can count on getting that kind of performance again. But I think what is funny about it, right, is that, not just the fact that we've been hating on DeAndre Swift really hard, but it does kind of seem like this Bears team has that weird sort of, well, I guess like anybody could step up on a given day and just like make that play. Like it was, Josh Blackwell, blocking a kick and, being, special teams player of the week, winning that game. It might be DeAndre Swift one week. So it's not just the Caleb Williams show, run around in circles and do something crazy. This is a team that has maybe that little bit of weirdo voodoo magic where it's like, yeah, like that guy that you think is trash, like you better watch how you're talking because he might win you a game.
Yeah, I've been very critical of DeAndre Swift. That's not a secret. I've highlighted his rushing yards over expected as one of the stats that I just keep looking at, and it's been disappointing. Last year was pretty awful. He was literally last in the league in it. This year, he was, I believe, if I recall correctly, like bottom 5, bottom 6. In week 6, in terms of rushing yards over expected, he was 4th best at 1.66. Some of that being, I think, Ben Johnson in the lab, figuring out exactly how to weaponize DeAndre Swift in terms of more of the, you can't ask DeAndre Swift to read out the blocks in that way. He just doesn't have the vision for it. It has to be one cut and go. And so just leaning into that, like, all right, that's what he is. Let's do that. It helps that you had Darnell Wright in there at right tackle. It helped that you had a better blocking left tackle in Theo Benedict, and also he held up well in pass block too. I mean, we'll see what happens long term against a little better pass rushers, but overall, really good game from him. And then at the end of the day, there was some dog in him in that. I think he really emphasized, I think, a aggressive run style in that game as well. And when the few times he did run between the tackles, he still put his head down, put his shoulder down, and try to put a hole through somebody. So you have to give him his flowers. Yeah.
And he has those games every once in a while where somebody clearly gets to him and is like, yeah, you see that hole, hit that hole, man. Just run hard, just run downhill, bounce off of somebody if you have to, and not dance around and try to find holes that simply aren't there, or, just like run into your own guy's back or like whatever it is. It's like the holes are there. Like, please hit them. And every once in a while, he'll just have those games where you're just like, I don't know what it is. Like maybe just the run blocking is there and he just sees the lane and is hitting it. But yeah, more of that, please.
Quick break here, and then we're going to get to the second half of our show. By the way, we have merch. We're our own sponsors for this segment, as it has been. I'm throwing the QR code up on the screen here. So if you are watching live, if you're whether it's YouTube, Twitter, etc., you can scan that code. It'll bring you to the website where you can get some sweet merch. I'm not wearing any of it again. I'm a bad showman for this, but go ahead. It is anything from hats to shirts for this podcast. I think there's a water bottle and a mug. Other podcasts, there's a very cool cup. There's a nice rocks glass that you can get. I'm trying to get a beer stein. So I would love just like a nice beer stein for Bear, but like a bear sized, right? Stein for us. But yeah, if you're listening, it's probably
send me one of those. Send me one of those.
It's probably easiest if you go and snag the QR code, go to the YouTube video, but if not, you can go to second-city-gridiron-shop.fourthwall.com in order to get your merch. The more merch you buy, the more cool stuff we get to do, because it helps the podcast grow and do cool things. Like I'd like to again do a in-person draft one. That was awesome. We got to meet a bunch of fans and we got to do giveaways. That'll help us. So go do that. Also, if you can, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube, share this stuff on Twitter. It seems silly. It takes you 10 seconds and it really helps the pod. So you could just literally just comment what score you think is gonna be this weekend. Just throw a score in there. All right, what you need to know. Bears versus Saints rivalry has been played 34 times, including 3 postseason games, with the Chicago Bears winning 15 games and the New Orleans Saints winning 19 games, with Bears losing the last 8 matchups in a row. Dennis Allen is making his return to the New Orleans Saints after being relieved of his head coaching duties. So, a little bit of something there to keep an eye on. I got some questions here for you, Kyrie, and I'm going to see off the dome what you got for me. Alvin Kamara said today that if they trade him, he's going to just go drink pina colada somewhere. So he's basically said that he wants to be a Saint for life. Is Alvin Kamara still the kind of running back who the Bears have to fear this Sunday?
Fear? No. You need to be aware of him, but I am not afraid of Alvin Kamara at this point in his career. When you have in the end, right, I wouldn't say he's at a point where he's like, fallen off precipitously, perhaps. Still a multi-dimensional threat, catch the ball out of the backfield and all of that. But he's not quite the same caliber of player in an offense that, is not the kind of caliber of offense he's used to playing in. So look, you get as many miles on your body as he has, and there comes a point where inevitably you're just not what you used to be.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head on that one. Kind of in the same thought process, there are some names on the Saints defense. Cam Jordan, Chase Young, Demario Davis, Justin Reed. But does it still have teeth?
As a unit, no. I think that I have a lot of respect for Cam Jordan, and I do maybe have some concerns about how often he lines up next to Theo Benedette and tries his luck there. But I think the stats bear it out. This is not a good defense. Having good names on a defense does not make the unit good. See Baltimore Ravens, who have a bunch of names on that defense and are porous as all hell. Yeah. So look, in the end, you are how you play. And it's not defenses and offenses, whatever, are not made up of 3 guys, and again, they're made out of, it's 11 guys on the field any given time. And again, there are names there that you respect, people that have played really well over the course of their careers, but they're not in their primes anymore. So you circle their names, but you're not double circling them. You know what I mean?
Yeah. If Austin Booker can go this week, how much of an impact can Bears fans expect him to have?
Probably not that much. See him in some kind of relief appearances, maybe while you work him back from injury. I would like to see, because look, in the end, this Bears pass rush is not doing anything for me generally.
Nope.
You're over here looking at Montez Sweat and be like, I remember when they made that trade and the impact that it looked like that he did have, not looked like he had, that he did have when he first came to the Bears. And you're like, man, why are we paying you all this? But I also feel like forcing Austin Booker into an expanded role off rip coming back from injury just because you're not getting what you need from the other guys, I don't know that that's necessarily the way to go.
Yeah, I think if there's like an obvious pass down situation, right? It's 3rd and 12, and you bump Dio inside, and then you put Austin on the outside. I don't know if he'll even have stats, but outside of pressures. But does his speed on the outside create a sack for someone else? Javon Dexter in the middle or something of that nature. Do you see instances? Because at the end of the day, he also doesn't fit necessarily the Dennis Allen archetype. He likes those big, long, just stout defensive ends. So I think he would traditionally still stick with that as his main, his fastball. You could say, with more Austin Booker being your occasional changeup, which you'd have to, I think, kind of squint to find where that impact is versus opening the box score at the end. Next question for you: is Darnell Wright underrated?
Yes, I think that, especially early in the year, I think there's a bit of a learning curve, or, people a bit more concerned about his pass protection, but the run blocking has been elite. And when I think, take a look at some of the pass blocking numbers, he's been playing some pretty good football these last couple of weeks. And I
Speaking of
think
that pass
that
blocking number, Brett Coleman tweeted out, follow him at Brett Coleman. He's pretty
Yes.
solid, pretty dope, pretty awesome. Darnell Wright is allowing a pressure rate of only 2.1% on true dropbacks. That's one pressure on 48 snaps. The only two tackles in the league better at that rate are Joe Alt and Brian O'Neill.
pretty good. We like this. And that's what you spend the 10th overall pick in the draft for.
Yeah, I know I've been critical of him saying, are we seeing enough out of this 10th overall pick? And I think this year you're seeing not just when he's in the game, but also when he wasn't in the game, like what that can look like. Last one for you. This is more of a statement, and then I'm going to let you discuss. This year, PFF has Caleb Williams graded at 68.8 for the year, good for 19th best out of 38 quarterbacks. Spencer Rattler is graded for 78.2, good for 11th. Thoughts?
Spencer Rattler does not have the skill set that Caleb Williams does, and I think plays in a way that is more conducive to a higher PFF grade. He's gonna he's gonna throw it where you tell him to throw it, or a bit more readily, perhaps than Caleb Williams will. He might not take as many chances. Check it down, more completion, what have you, right? Caleb Williams is still sort of in that mode where he's obviously capable of making incredible plays. Every once in a while, he turns down a throw that you wish he wouldn't, or he'll misfire on a throw that he should hit. And he might run into a sack or run into pressure that he ought not to. So there's still a little bit of that feast or famine to his game, though I feel like it's not as aggressive as all that. And I think that by and large, when you're looking at a second-year quarterback in a new offense, you literally never know how that's going to go. I would say that his performance has been totally fine with me, but that doesn't entirely surprise me. It also doesn't mean that Spencer Rattler is better than Caleb Williams. That's never been the case.
Even just raw
Not
stats.
even when they were in college.
Just raw stats. I mean, Caleb Williams has about 30 more passing yards per game than Spencer does. Within one less game, Caleb has 9 touchdowns to Rattler's 6. They both have 1 interception. So even just some of those, I mean, like the completion percentage is a bit higher for Rattler. But like, if you ask 32 GMs and gave them all truth serum, is anyone really saying, yes, I'm taking Spencer Rattler to be my quarterback over? No, it's just silly. And that's where I had tweeted out earlier this week, I'm done with PFF grades. So this is kind of a tongue-in-cheek thing with that. It's right. If you're grading every single play, will a play where Spencer throws a 6-yard slant route on 3rd and 8 grade out higher potentially than Caleb having to spinning out of the pocket, rolling to the side, and then throwing an incomplete pass? Yes, that'll probably be graded better. But like, at least when he spun out, there was a chance that he was going to get the first versus that stupid slant that fell 2 yards short.
Yeah. Well, as long as there wasn't a guy open before he spun out of the pocket or did whatever, but and
we're assuming there was pressure that forced him out of that situation.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right. Love it, hate it, rehabilitate it. This is we pick a matchup, specific dynamic we love for the Bears, one we hate for the Bears, and one that if we were the coach, we would have focus on fixing this week leading into the next game. What's your love?
Well, I love the matchup of the Bears offense against the Saints defense. Again, I watched a Patriots offense with a lot less talent, generally across the board, except the quarterback situation is pretty good over there. But less talent, score all over that offense in the first half. Like Drake May had like a perfect passer rating in 3 first half touchdowns. So yes, I'm all about that. And in particular, I'm looking for whoever's playing in the slot to potentially come up with big plays, because that's what happened in that game. Whoever the secondary.
You're fully in on the Luther Burden game, apparently.
Well, and you might see Zacchaeus in that role. I mean, that's completely possible. Maybe, depending on if DJ Moore plays or how much of a role he has. But the reason I bring that up is because the Saints were like, we're taking away Stephon Diggs, a couple of weeks ago, and Demario Douglas has a touchdown. Kayshon Boutte has a touchdown. So I think Kayshon Boutte had 2 touchdowns in the first half last week. So those secondary guys, like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and we're going to take away the number one option, whomever we decide that is going to be on a given play. And maybe that's Rome, maybe that's DJ, but then whoever's running around underneath, if you're losing him, you're losing track of him while Caleb Williams is running around doing his thing in the pocket. Dude's wide open down there.
Yeah.
Right? Just nobody within 10 yards. So, I mean, pick your guy.
My love is actually, I'm glad you had that, because mine's the opposite. It's Dennis Allen versus Kellen Moore. As one, I already mentioned, I think Dennis Allen, he'd probably tell you this is just another game, but there's a little something there going against your former team that's always going to be there. As his defense has gotten healthier and Dennis has learned his players better, this defense has improved. The run fits against the Commanders were much better than previous weeks. For Edwards at the mic and Edmonds at the will definitely made a difference for both those players. That was huge. Bears are second in the NFL in turnovers forced with 12, 8 interceptions, 4 fumble recoveries. And previously I read off the offensive stats for the Saints, and they're just not very good in terms of their overall ranking. So you mix all that together, I think Dennis Allen is going to put Kellen Moore in a bit of a spin here. I'll just keep going with my hate, actually. My hate is anyone versus Nahshon Wright. I know he got that pick 6 in week 1 in a fumble recovery last week, but the Saints do have some decent receivers, and Chris Olave good underneath. Rashid Shaheed is dynamic downfield, and even the corpse of Brandon Cooks plays a role in this. Nahshon Wright has been targeted 22 times this year and allowed a passer rating of 115.5. I mean, the guy's basically just a free completion at this point. I mean, for comparison, Tyreek Stevenson is a 61.2 in terms of passer rating allowed. I know Allen likes Nahshon Wright's size, but I think it's probably maybe time for Jalen Jones to get a look. I have a little bonus one, semi-related. Also, can we quit dropping defensive linemen into coverage on important downs? Like last week, Commanders picked up a huge first down on a third down because Dominique Robinson had to try to cover McNichols leaking out of the backfield. It's just a bad look.
Yeah. My hate, to kind of play off of that, is whichever one of our cornerbacks is going up against Rashid Shaheed. I'm really scared of that guy.
Yeah.
Because no matter what quarterback he's playing with or what offense he's in, he's gonna rip off a big play on you. He will get behind you for a 60-yard pass, and then you're not catching him, or you're punting it to him and he's scoring on you. Like, he is by far. You're asking about Alvin Kamara, right? Is somebody like you're scared of? I'm scared of that dude. Like, I'm worried about Shaheed. I'm not worried about anybody else half as much as I am about him. Which is, again, not something you would think.
Rashid Shaheed has 2 of the top 11 speeds for this year. In week 5, he reached 21.72 miles per hour on an 87-yard play, and in week 4, he reached 21.19 miles per hour on a rush.
Tracks. He really, really fast.
Speed don't flunk.
Yeah, and so that's my guy that I've been hinting at this whole time. I'm worried about him, and Dennis Allen knows that well. So take that dude away, please.
Yeah, have someone on him underneath and have someone over the top. That's all I can say to that.
Yeah, and make sure when he's over the top, he's over the top, because if you're even with him, he's leaving you.
My rehabilitate's pretty simple. Last week, the Bears were 3 of 10 on third down. That's not tenable. This year, the Bears have a 42.4% third down conversion rate. They were also 0 for 1 last week on that 4th and 1 that they tried, the unsuccessful pass play. And Bears have converted just 33% of their 4th down attempts this season, successfully converting 2 out of 6 attempts. They're good on 1st and 2nd down. That's where they're moving the ball. But on 3rd and 4th, they're getting stymied too much. You got to be able to convert those.
Mine is 9 penalties for 84 yards last week.
Yeah.
Come on. We got to execute better than that. And then obviously not just the penalties that are taking points off the board or penalties that are extending drives, but also mental lapses, drop passes, etc. Be sharper, right? Which again goes towards some of the 3rd and 4th down execution. But these are mental mistakes and simple things that you can control every single play. So fix that, please.
Next, X factor for the Saints. Connecting to a bit to what you were talking about earlier, mine is actually they would have. I think for them to win this game, they have to establish their ground game. Bears did better last week, but they still allowed 124 rushing yards. Jaden Daniels scrambles were a part of that, and they had 7 rushing first downs. Alvin Kamara is not the same guy he was, but Kendrick Miller is still a dynamic back. I think you can't rely on the arm of Spencer Rattler to win the game. I think you have to get some chunk rushes, some explosive runs, control the clock, get ahead, things like that, in order for the Saints to win this.
Indeed. I also think, look, I still really like Chris Olave as a player. And he had some rough drops against the Patriots, and really a game that they had a chance in, right? So I'm looking at him potentially coming out and being like, you know what, I got something to prove this week, against some corners that can be had. So definitely looking at, again, because I talked about Shaheed, and there's going to be special attention paid to him, hopefully not getting beat deep. But then you got to look at the other side of things with Chris Olave.
X factor for the Bears. Keep it rolling. What do you have?
I am looking at DeAndre Swift once again, because I think my first instinct is to say that he's going to fall off, after putting up, 108 yards this past week, 170 plus scrimmage yards, huge touchdown. I think they're going to try and get him going again this week. And I feel like personally, I don't know that I have a ton of faith in him to respond with another big game. It hasn't happened yet during his time with the Bears, which is why if he does respond with another big game, that's when I think I'm going to look at this Bears offense and be like, okay, we got something here. So I try not to, it's my first time on here in a while, so you don't have to hear me, give this one all the time. So I will risk, shooting my shot on that now. DeAndre Swift in a lot of ways is a barometer for this offense.
Mine is, and you talked about this, but so I'll keep it short, but do the easy things. The Bears are just better than the Saints are. So if you don't do the stupid things, right, where the wheels come off when the Bears get in their own way, like with the penalties you mentioned, you score a touchdown, illegal formation, big pass downfield, holding, force a fourth down, roughing the passer. You avoid those and the layups. The Bears get into 3rd and 15, you got to allow a dump off pass to the running back that goes for a first. A wide receiver gets schemed open, like we saw with Zacchaeus, and then there's a big drop. Right? It's if you don't just do the easy things, and they will win this game. It's just a matter of how much.
Exactly. I mean, once again, there's no reason you should be losing this game. You're the better team. You are coming off of a big win in which penalties and execution are going to be harped on all week. Right? Because this isn't one of those games where it's like, oh yeah, we totally dusted off, our division rival or whatever it is in a huge emotional game where it's just like, yeah, we're riding high. Like this is one of those where like you easily could have lost this game. And Ben Johnson and the coaching staff are going to make sure to tell them all week, you easily could have and might have lost this game if Jaden Daniels doesn't fumble that ball. So don't get high on yourself. Come out here with something to prove.
Last couple categories here. Over-unders, kind of rapid fire. Just going to shoot you some ones that based in mostly logic, but I made these up. Caleb Williams passing yards, 225.5 yards. He's saying over for those on the podcast who are not hearing his fingers point to the sky.
That's true. That's right. Yeah, not everybody's here. Yeah, we're going over with that one. I'll make sure to do that for all of y'all who aren't listening.
The Saints have allowed 224.5 yards per game. So look at that logic. Why I picked that number.
What was that number again? Sorry, I was still basking in my shame.
224.5 is what they've allowed per game.
I mean, yeah, we're going over on that one.
Alvin Kamara touches 16.5.
Let's say under on that one.
he's averaging 17.5 touches per game. However, if you look, he's actually averaging less as the year's gone on. So yeah, that would actually track.
Miller. I was a big fan of Kendre Miller when he was coming out. Took him a while to get some traction.
Tell me about my fantasy team that I held on to him for like 3 years and then finally cut him. Been awful. Total penalties in this game, 12.5.
Total 12.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're gonna go over on that one. we got one team that's been a little penalty prone, and then one bad team. So that yeah, we could switch it up.
Montez Sweat sacks half. Just does he get one?
Oh my god!
Or I guess does he share two? Either way,
he'll get one.
Okay.
It's probably not going to be spectacular. It's just going to be some accidentally going to run into it.
Lastly, Velus Jones snaps half.
I forgot he was playing for the Saints.
Yeah, I forgot until I was looking at the
because him and Shaheed were like, yeah, who's the fastest guy on the team? And Velus Jones is like, me, please. But aside from that, what was the number?
Half.
I think Velus will get a touch. Just because I think it'd be like, yo, show them what they're missing, buddy.
He played 1 snap in week 4 and 1 snap in week 5.
You know what? Revenge game. Every time there's a revenge game, I feel a certain kind of way about it. He's gonna get a handoff or something.
Some stupid thing. All right. Bear gut check. We use our gut feelings revitalized by kombucha to give our game predictions against the line. Noon Sunday, Saints at Bears. Bears favored by 5.5.
Oh yeah, we're taking that.
Taking the Bears?
We're taking the Bears. Yeah, for sure.
I have to. I mean, I expect them to win this by double digits. If this should be, again, I said this earlier in the show, this should be a Cowboys-esque win in terms of maximizing points gained, minimizing points given up. You should be 30-14, something like that.
Yes.
Tonight's game, Thursday night football, Steelers at Bengals. Just like Joe Flacco came to hopefully save the Bengals, Kyrie came today to save the podcast. Dusting off the old arm to vocal cords, one could say, to help us out here. But the Steelers are favored by 5.5. Who you got?
You know what? I think that the Bengals will sneak in and undercut that one. It's a division game, which is weird. It's the second game of Joe Flacco being in Cincinnati, so had a little bit of time to get used to these guys. And honestly, I just can't trust the Steelers to do what they're supposed to do consistently. Though I mean, they're 4-2 or whatever it is. So obviously they're winning. But I feel like, listen, when it comes to division matchups, doesn't matter how bad a given AFC North team is. Nobody ever blows anybody out.
And when you look at the Steelers' schedule, I mean, they beat the Jets by 2 in that crazy first week. It was 34-32 game, but we've seen what the Jets have been. They lost to the Seahawks, which are just a great team with Sam Darnold. Who'd have thunk it? They beat, oddly enough, the Patriots, who have found their way more. I don't understand what happened there. They beat the Vikings in that weird game where they didn't have JJ, which I'm not even saying anything about JJ really, I guess. And then they also beat the terrible Browns. So I don't know. They're just they're first in the division because the rest of the division sucks, and they played a bunch of not great teams. It's not great games. It's weird. I'm going to say that the Bengals backdoor cover. Eagles at Vikings. Eagles favored by 1.5.
They're a bit of a mess lately.
Mm-hmm.
I think they will find a way to get right this week. I don't know what that looks like. If we're going to see a major Saquon Barkley game, or is this going to finally be the game where they're just like, look, okay, AJ Brown, shut up. We'll feed you the ball. But I think this is going to be getting off the schneid, or at least for their sake, I hope it is. But yeah, for 1 point, I'll take that.
And we don't even know who the Vikings quarterback will be right now. JJ was a limited participant. Carson Wentz was full. That team as a whole is a good team. I have a hard time picking the Vikings, especially when it's this close, when you don't know who the quarterback is. So Eagles figure it out. Packers at Cardinals. Packers are favored by 6.5. Cardinals likely without Kyler Murray again. But honestly, Jacoby Brissett arguably played better than Murray's played this year. So I don't know what you want to do with that.
I mean, in the end, Jacoby Brissett he's a consummate backup. He's been around for a long time, but I'm not going to believe in him too much for this one.
All right. I know the Packers offense after that Lions early beatdown has just not been what I think most Packers fans have wanted it to be. Jordan Love, he's been more that weird Jordan Love versus the one that we saw that first year where he really was, in theory, taking the league by storm. But that being said, I just don't think the Cardinals have enough firepower. Marvin Harrison Jr. likely also not playing. That defense is just not fantastic. I'll take the Packers just to win and cover. Last one, Buccaneers at Lions, Monday Night Football. This should be a fun one. I'm excited for this. Also, the positive, it's the first game in this doubleheader on Monday night instead of the second game where I'll just probably fall asleep because I have an early patient. So I'm excited about this. Especially you on the East Coast. I mean, that's this double header where they don't overlap must be kind of rough for you.
I'm gonna get with
Lions are favored by 5.5. I don't know if I said that.
No, you didn't. Say what was that again?
5.5.
And in the Bucks or Lions?
The Lions.
Oh, I'm taking Bucks. To cover that. Yeah, I'm taking
Mike Evans
Bucks
might be back. Mike Evans might be back.
I mean, Baker Mayfield is just on such a hilarious year right now.
Oh my God.
Playing the most inspired football this dude is. The most inspired football that he's ever played, aside from that time that he showed up for the Rams and then 2 days of practice and then he wins that game for the game-winning drive. Aside from that, this got to be the best stretch of football Baker Mayfield has played since he was at Oklahoma. This guy is just absolutely slaying right now. And he did it last week with nobody. Right? So I think, Mike Evans back, whatever. Baker Mayfield, betting on him.
And I know you're missing, your sensational rookie, Emeka Akuba, which sucks. But like I said, Mike Evans should be back. Some of us have been here on the Baker train. I've always liked, if not loved, Baker's game. Thought that he was done dirty with the Browns, and he's been able to settle in. One thing that's really I've noticed with Baker is the athleticism and the scrambling ability is just way better than it was early in his career. I don't know if it's just a little bit of a savviness. I don't know if he picked up a little extra speed somewhere along the way, but his scrambling is a lot better whether it's to move the chains or to throw the ball downfield. And that's really added another layer to his game. I'll take the Buccaneers to win this. Also, just because the Lions are still missing their secondary, they just cannot catch a break in terms of the health on that defense. It's just been rough for them. Yeah. All right. That's it. That's the show. Thank you, Kyrie, for stepping in again. Really appreciate it. Just not the hero we deserve, but the hero we needed.
You know what, man? Happy to be whatever kind of hero y'all need. It was fun. It's been a minute. I've been kind of out of the football situation for a while in terms of podcasting and stuff like that. But it was really great to kind of jump back in, feel kind of revitalized, and honestly, it's also just more fun with the Bears being a competent football team.
It's way better than, a couple of years ago, the downfall of the Justin Fields Bears, or even last year where, just the infighting that was clearly happening, and then everything after Thanksgiving. I mean, that whole thing was crazy. So hopefully a different trajectory with the next couple of weeks. There's definitely some winnable games, and it should be fun, man.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it.
All right, everyone. Bear the heck down. Enjoy the week. And we'll be back next Thursday, same time, same place.